Good morning. Hello, Renetta.
Hello, hello.
Back, back again, yeah. Yeah. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, my friend. What's going on?
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have fun today. I can feel it. And this is Fun Friday. So yeah, it's let's make the best of it, guys. We have a minute till. So and
You
another
know what
thing,
would be fun?
I'm sorry.
To you know what would be fun? To do a fun fact Friday
Oh,
or something like that.
right, right. I'm glad you mentioned that because something we, we can mention that in this, like when I don't know about today, but like as far as what Blake and her organization is doing, like out, like within the community or outside, out, if it makes sense, outside the community, on how they're making an impact. And I just printed off some information, and that's her counterpart's name, Nicole Jacob Sylvie, and she's a speaker and a coach for DEI consultant Forbes. It says Forbes BLK. So, and she's also a community-minded connector. All right, this is her right now. I have a couple of questions. That's about it. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you
Good
doing?
morning. Good
I
morning.
am
Good
doing
morning.
great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Cleaver, for offering your time and availability. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to be on our platform, and we really do appreciate your time, because you're taking time out of your busy, hectic, and crazy schedule.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being asked and I'm excited to be here. And Fridays are my easy days. So this worked out great.
All right, all right. This is gonna be easy, fun fact Friday day for everyone. And how we like to start our podcast off, Miss Cleaver, and it's to your discretion, but we like to start it off with prayer. And if you like to say prayer, go right on ahead. Uh, if not, I'll say it, and we're gonna get this ball rolling.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll let you lead it. I'll let you lead the prayer then.
Thank you, Miss Cleaver. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on this day. And Lord Almighty, thank you for Miss Cleaver for about what she's about to bring to the table. She's got some spectacular stories. I can feel it, and I can feel it, but we can feel it in our heart. So, and that's what this is all about. We're the city of hearts. We got big hearts. And so protect our families, and teach us how to relax and have fun. And whatever stress may come about, just help us to depend and lean on one another, because we are the stress reducers. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. 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 Yeah. And thank you again, Miss Cleaver, for joining us. You have a amazing resume. I know for me, I heard you on the Darren Story show, and it was very enlightening when I heard you and Nicole Jacob Sylvie on there. And it seemed like you guys were coming together in regards to, excuse me, tackling this diversity
Yeah,
initiative.
Nicole and I have been working together on BDI for several years now.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now what is BDI, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so we call it the Board Diversity Initiative.
Okay.
And what we're hoping to do with the initiative is get more diverse representation on nonprofit boards. Because what we realize is nationally, but also locally, board demographics haven't changed in several decades. And so, most nonprofit boards, regardless of the communities that they're serving, they all look the same. They have the same demographics, tends to be that who you know approach.
Mhm.
That makes boards look the same. And so we're hoping to, diversify nonprofit boards, have them look representative of the communities that they serve, and also give opportunities to people who haven't been asked to serve on boards, who have all of the skills and, could really bring a great ideas to the table, who haven't been asked. And we're hoping to work with them to understand what does board service look like and make sure that they, have the skills that they need. They can kind of market themselves that way and join boards that could really use their voice.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You said the key word, to market themselves.
Mhm.
I just listened to, oh, wow. It was something on the news just the other day about a particular board, and one of the members disagreed with quote unquote initiative,
Mhm.
the planning. This is like in the beginning of the planning stages,
Mhm.
and it's unreal. So you probably hear a lot about different boards.
Mhm.
Uh, like we have like the Kaufman Foundation, and I don't know if you know Devin Gordon. He was with All Cap, ALTCAP. He was with All Cap, but now he's with the Kaufman Foundation. So
Okay.
so what I'm seeing, people are moving from board to board to board to find the right, I'm gonna say, chemistry. You gotta have you have to
Mhm.
have the right chemistry as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So part of that, we have 3 tracks with BDI. We have the organization track, the board track, where we're working with organizations to shift their board culture so that they, have a more inclusive board culture. They're working from an equity lens. They're understanding some of the DEI concepts that we're talking about. They have basic DEI training as part of that org track. We have an executive leader track that's part of the org track as well. So as the executive leader whose board is going through BDI, they get some kind of roundtable discussion with other executive leaders who are going through the same thing, working with nonprofit professionals to kind of answer questions, help them navigate maybe some tough conversations that are happening as their organization goes through the track. But the other piece, and the piece that I'm super excited about, is the candidate piece. And that's working with, prospective board candidates from diverse backgrounds. And, it's a lot of understanding how do boards work, what are the, what's the terminology that they're using, how to read a management report. But it's also, and I think one of the most important pieces is understanding what right fit looks like for them. Instead of just being asked to serve on a board, you want to really understand, like, what is this board doing, and do their values align with my values and their mission, and why am I engaging with this board? And that's a big piece of the candidate track, I believe.
Wow. Oh, wow. Those are pivoting questions
Mhm.
to ask yourself. I mean, we're in meetings all the time, but you can kind of feel a few people that may not be, they're most likely they're asking the same question as well. Like, am my beliefs in line with what they beliefs are? I think
Mhm.
I believe the key word is alignment.
Mhm.
Alignment, because you're gonna have different philosophies, different perspectives, and most, as we all know, life experiences.
Mhm.
Those
Absolutely.
those life experiences, we all have different life experiences. So how is that gonna play in the success of the organizations?
Mhm.
Because the organizations, they're gonna have their policies, they're gonna have their standards and whatnot. So you really you, you're really walking a fine line when you're in these meetings. You really
Mhm.
have to know who you are. And that's, I mean, what you guys doing is incredible, because the key word is connection. That's
Mhm.
that's what that's what keeps resonating in my mind. Connection, connection. We just had a gentleman on last week, and believe it or not, his name's Stephen Eggerly. I met him down at the airport. But to make a long story short, he told me I have a big heart. Back in the day when the Jerry Lewis telethon was really,
Mhm.
with the muscular dystrophy, he said I was involved, and he's still involved to this day when he goes down to Joplin, and it's like a community down there. But he has a heart for uh, like kids, children, muscular, with MS. And he told me, the first thing he told me, he said, life is not fair.
Mhm.
I said, yeah, life is not fair, but it's worth it.
Mhm.
But we was able to connect, even though different life experiences.
Right.
So your different life, and that's what I'm getting from you. Uh, and your, like I said, your resume is out of this world, because in 2018 you was an intern. Yeah.
Mhm.
And now your passion in community development, and it's just flourished, you know. Uh, Being an impact manager, what are some of the day-to-day decisions that you make?
Yeah. Well, my job is really twofold with Support KC, and part of what I do is I work with our prospective clients who are in need of services. So what Support Kansas City does is we provide back office support services to nonprofits in the Kansas and Missouri area. And a big chunk of what we do is around accounting services, but we have a lot of other services that we provide. So database services, grant writing services, fund development, strategic planning, really anything that your organization might need, we're doing that for nonprofits. And so I'm kind of the first person that anybody talks to if they're in need of services. If you're a nonprofit and you are in need of accounting services, you're going to talk with me, and I, help kind of usher you through our process. We have a prospective client kind of pipeline process where you'll meet with our team, we draft a proposal, that type of thing. So that's a chunk of what I do. And then the other chunk of what I do, the other part of my job, which I love so much, is working with the BDI team on creating the curriculum and developing, the training pieces, talking about what's our next event and what organizations are we going to work with, and then also providing that training to boards and candidates as well.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You said three words: accounting, grant, and I believe you said events. And we're going to get to the event part. We're going to get to, I believe the other day, it might have been on your website, KC Support,
Mm-hmm.
but don't quote me on this, but someone was looking for an accountant. I was like, oh, wow, that has to be, but a lot of organizations are looking for accountants and different,
Mm-hmm.
positions. But what your organization does, it helps other uh, non-profit nonprofit position themselves better. If
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that most people who start nonprofits, they have, the passion. They might not necessarily have the technical skills or the background in accounting or, and they want to focus on their mission. That's what they do the best. Their programming. They might just not have the skills to, do the accounting and the database and all of those things. So that's where we come in is to help them really further their mission so that they can put their time where it's best used.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Fabulous, fabulous. Yes, Renetta, Anthony, do you guys have any questions for Miss Cleaver?
Yes, Miss
Yes.
Blake
Yes.
Cleaver. Go ahead, Renetta.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. Thank you again. Once again, we greatly appreciate you taking out the time to talk and speak with us and our listeners. But if you can just touch on, the difference between profit and nonprofit organization.
Absolutely. So a nonprofit organization, well, I'll start with the for-profit. A for-profit organization, let's say you go to start a for-profit, that's really, you own that company, depending on how you set it up. And you can make decisions about how your revenue is spent. Also, you're typically fee for service, and you decide, how much you make and how much your employees make, and you really have free reign to decide what you do with your revenue, whether you put that back into the organization or you invest in other areas. And I'm by no means an expert in the topic, but I'm just going to give it to you how I understand it to be. So, there's free reign, and then also you can own it. You own it. But a nonprofit, when you start a nonprofit, the community owns that organization. You don't own it. You start it, but then you are accountable for, how the revenue is spent, in a sense that, like, these foundations who are investing in nonprofits, it's called restricted funds, right? If I give you money, I can say that I only want these revenues to go towards, or I only want this grant to go towards this specific project. And that means that you can only spend that money on that project. So an organization has to really, navigate a tough spot of, like, I have these needs and I have to pay my employees, but my funds are restricted to these things. And everybody wants to fund, projects. Let's say it's like an animal rescue. Everybody wants to fund, animals and that type of thing. They don't necessarily want to fund the employees who are running those programs. These employees are still very much needed, but trying to navigate where your funding is coming from can be difficult for a nonprofit, because you have a tax write-off, and people that donate to you, get a tax write-off, and it all has to do with the IRS and how you're set up. But as somebody who starts a nonprofit organization, you don't own that. The community owns that. So, your board is the one who makes the biggest decisions, not so much in for profit. The owner makes the decisions, but in a board, they hire and fire the executive director. That's huge. So you could start a nonprofit and, have a board that maybe doesn't see your vision the way that you do, and decide that maybe you're not the best fit to carry on that organization. You don't own it. Once you create it, the community owns it. It's theirs, and the board makes the decisions. So the board, when we're talking about BDI, the board is crucial to an organization, a nonprofit organization. Did that
Okay,
answer your
thank you.
question?
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
ma'am. Yes, and if you're able to leave us the contact information for our listeners, just in case if someone wants to know more about the program or the organization that you have, we'll be able to give them directly to whom they need to speak to, if you don't mind doing that.
Of course, yes. I will send my information over to Tyrone, and then also it's just supportkansascity.org.
Okay, perfect.
KC or
Thank
Kansas
you.
City. Now I need to check.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Good, great question. Anthony?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Blake Cleaver. Advance, what we're doing here with Communicating as Confidence, is advance amazing, wonderful conversations about the reasons we differ on subjects in each of our hearts with enthusiasm. Our world of thought expressing the good and difficult levels of you. understanding our words are gifts, creating results. So the value of understanding the world of communication and exchanging great dialogue. And that's what we're here to do with you. If you had one scenario you can give us to, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to present and share your experience and your expertise with us, even though you may not think, but you are an expert. Share with us about what became your driving force to get in this space when it all began.
That's a great question. Thank you for that question.
You're
My background, and I started in a nonprofit. I kind of stumbled my way into the nonprofit sector, and I really had no idea what nonprofits were, or if that was what I wanted to do. I was at William Jewell. I went to William Jewell for my undergrad, and I kind of was just up in the air with what I wanted to do with my career. They have a great nonprofit program, and so I got involved in that, and I started an internship at Support KC. But at that time, I still didn't know, what I wanted to do. And that kind of blossomed into other opportunities. I became the office coordinator once I graduated from Jewel. And I started to really understand, what's a nonprofit and how does it run, and looking at the missions that the nonprofits that we were supporting are doing the amazing work they're doing in the communities to fill a gap that community members are not getting these services anywhere else. And so these nonprofits are trying to impact communities that really need, access to different resources that they're just not getting. And, understanding the gap between need and the services that nonprofits were providing, and then getting really just inspired to work with these communities and these nonprofit organizations. And that developed into an opportunity to start working with the Board Diversity Initiative, which at the start, this has been a 4-year project. I came in probably year 3. No, I came in about year 2 in the 4 years. And so I really didn't even understand what it was that we were doing. And I was just there to kind of take minutes. And then as I, started sitting in on the meetings, I was like, oh, wow, I understand, this need. I understand where we're trying to go with this. And this small idea kind of grew and grew and grew. And then I was asked to, be part of creating the curriculum. And just seeing the organizations that we're working with every day and the nonprofit organizations that we have in our community, seeing that they're working in these specific communities, but their boards don't represent those communities, it gets me thinking, like, of course we need all voices at the table, but we especially need voices of the people who are being most impacted by the work that these organizations are doing. And so we like to say, don't do for me without me is kind of our driving force behind BDI. And so we want to make sure that these people who are receiving the services have a say in how those services are being provided and the decisions that are being made about the organization and the services and the programs. And so really just being part of it from the very start, to helping build the curriculum out and working with, I got to see, a lot of the organizations that we're hoping to, work with someday and how their boards are functioning. And part of my role at SKC, and still is, was sitting in on board meetings for Support Kansas City, but also organizations, and taking minutes and just understanding really how does board governance work and what is the impact that can be made from getting these voices at the table.
great answer there for that
Yeah.
response to that question. And what I heard was creation, collaborating, and then contributing. And so that's the value you bring through interning all the way to here. And it's expanded your vision too, to making sure that, like you say, they have a voice and they can participate in the actual impact and outcome. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cleaver. Thank you for that also question, Anthony. We have a neighbor of mine's. His name is Colin Reagan, and I've asked him to mute himself. So he just said he's sitting at the desk, not so really. He says weird for me here. I can just watch him. Yeah, and record later if that works. So he's going to be listening in as well. He's listening in right now. So welcome, Colin, a good neighbor of mine's, works out, him and a friend of his named Jake. They I mean their bodies are out of this world. But thank you for that, Miss Cleaver, because yeah, it's just like a company. I mean, you have shareholders, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest, at the now with Kansas City, it's like non-for-profits. It was a few years, 2, 3 years ago, it was just exploded.
Yes.
It's just been exploding all, I mean, Missouri, Kansas, you name, just exploded. And a number of them, some are getting themselves positioned for what's coming up, like the event. I would love for you to tell us about the upcoming event you guys are having. Because what I see, my wife, she volunteers for Starlight Theater,
Hmm.
KCPT Channel 19, and American Warrior. I mean, that's what I love about her. Because I mean, it's non-for-profits is, to me, is basically grassroots.
Hmm.
But these grassroots organizations have to realize that running a sufficient board is imperative, because people, the board members want to know what's going on,
Hmm.
the interaction, because everything, as we all know, it jumps on social media.
Hmm.
And community, when you talk about community, so social media, all of that, I mean, connects. It goes hand in hand. And whatever kind of decision or what type of decisions you make, it's going to impact the community, and it's going to be out there. It's
Hmm.
it's it's going to be out there. I go to my church community, Christian church community, and everything evolves around the community, the community. And it's a phrase you just mentioned
Hmm.
not too long ago, but it kind of reminds me of you know, what stays in the locker room stays in the locker room.
Hmm.
What stays in the locker room stays in the, whatever goes out of the locker room, it has to be informative. It has to be co co-parent with what the organization is striving to do,
Hmm. Hmm.
because the organization has an image, and that's the most important thing that I've gotten out of what you've been talking about, the the organization's image.
Hmm. Right.
And 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 the fact is, everyone, like I said, everyone has different perspectives. And what your organization do, you make sure those non-for-profits are, they're in alignment with what they're supposed to do.
Hmm.
Is and hey, is this the vision? You know, what's our vision? What's our true vision? What's our true mission statement?
Hmm.
We don't want to waste anyone's time. We don't want to waste anyone's time as far as, the people that are on our boards. And that's what I get. But like I said, my wife, she volunteers, and she's in those meetings, and one thing we know, Miss Cleaver, change is inevitable.
Hmm.
It's constant, and I applaud what you're doing
Thank
with,
you.
with support, KC. And I mean, I love this. It says you're driven by a thirst for knowledge and a desire to effectuate lasting change. So I like that. I like that. Lasting change.
Hmm.
We just talked about. We just talked about change. Change is inevitable. It's constant. It's happening every day. and
And it
what,
makes me think something that you said earlier on in the conversation is, board members bouncing from board to board, and most boards, if depending on how they're set up, have term limits, and your board should have term limits, of course, because you want new people at the table, and you want people to contribute, and then go on, and maybe they'll come back, they can bring fresh ideas, but most boards have term limits. And so you might serve on a board for a year, 2 years, maybe 4 years tops, and then you're moving on to likely a different board. And so what we're hoping with the lasting change is that these board members who participate in the organization's training, when they go on to different organizations, they bring those concepts and those skills and those tools with them. So we're really expanding that, impact to all of the different boards that you might serve on as an individual who's gone through the training. And I think that that's super important. We're also following back up with these boards after they've gone through the training. Have you actually implemented the things that we've asked you to implement? Did you create a diversity statement? Did you create a board matrix? Are you, staying in line with your equity lens? Are you leading through an equity lens? Are you doing all of these things we've talked about? What's your impact? So we're not just training these boards and then saying, okay, you're good to go, and they get to check a box and say, I did it. We're following up and making sure, did you actually change your culture? Did you change these governing, pieces? And are you leading from an equity lens? And that's the lasting impact piece, I believe.
oh, wow. Oh, wow. I love it. Helping them stay accountable,
Mm-hmm.
helping them to stay accountable.
What
Yeah.
would you say would be a good spotlight that you could share with us in the community and our listeners about the joy? There has to be something that is inspiring and an enthusiasm to you, where you go home smiling, or you finishing your day at the office before you log off, and you have this joy feeling because of an impact you made, or discussion you shared, or an idea that you gave. And then there's some times where you have a day where it's a little cloudy. If you can just give us some spotlight on the two differences that keeps you going in this space,
Mm-hmm.
and then how do you overcome when it's a little cloudy?
I think, the concept of diversity and equity training, I think, people are kind of shying away. It's, a hot topic, and, people kind of have mixed feelings on if we're going to engage in this. I think we saw a lot of engagement after, George Floyd's murder. We haven't seen as much now. It was kind of this big rush, and now people are kind of backing off. That's disappointing to me.
Right.
We had a lot of momentum, and I would like to see it continue. It's still important. We had organizations come out and maybe make a statement, and then that's it. We're not making, that change. So that is disappointing to me. When we launched BDI, which we did on April 17th to the community, we said, this is it. This is what we're doing. We had an event at the Kauffman Center and introduced it. We got just a huge amount of interest in the event, and that really filled my cup and warmed my heart to see that our nonprofit community as a whole, I think, is still very invested in DEI. They're still very invested in making this change and in creating inclusive organizations and uplifting voices of people of color and marginalized communities. And they're still, standing behind it. So when I walked away from that event, seeing, how the interest and the engagement and the people that were like, yes, we see how important this is, that may let me know that at least our community, we understand. We're on board. We're still working towards, making change. And, I think it's just, every day is a little disappointing when you hear kind of the mixed emotions behind wanting to pull away from the DEI work. But then seeing the people show up and say, no, we understand the need for this, and we want to be part of this. That's why we keep pushing, right? Is because we want to make that lasting change. And it is important, and you got to keep pushing, even when not everybody's on the same page. And I think that happens. You know, some of these conversations that we're having with boards, not everybody sitting at that board table understands or they agree, you know, that we should be making these changes. And that can lead to some tough conversations. And then you have to decide, you know, what's the goal that you're working towards here. And, you know, you might not be able to change everybody's mind. That's okay. But I think we'll, you know, make enough of an impact that we'll see a shift in board demographic. And that's really what we're working towards.
Awesome. I think that's important to know, that it's really having the determination to go forward. I think one of my biggest quotes is from Dennis Kimbrough. He talks about consistency will get it for you, but persistence will help you keep it. So you are going to have people who doubt, people who are not necessarily naysayers, but just like you mentioned, they're not on board. They can't see the vision, but we have to know that we have enough information and enough energy and enough collaboration that we have to go forward, because this is really the impact we're needing to make, not just wanting to make. So thank you for that share.
Of course. And I would just say that I think a lot of some of the kind of disagreement comes from a place of fear. We're not saying, you know, you don't deserve a place at the table. We're just saying everybody deserves a place at the table. So you're not losing out here by including other voices. And I think that's where some of the fear comes into play is, well, where do I go then? You know, where's my place? And it's we need to expand the table and include more voices. And having diverse voices at the table just leads to better conversations and better decisions. And, you know, if you have all the same voices, it's going to lead to stagnation and your organization can't move forward, you know. And so we need kind of this diversity of thought at the table. And that doesn't mean that there's not a place for you. It just means we need others involved in it, in the process as well.
I agree totally.
Thank you, guys. We just got a couple of minutes. We want to hear about the event that's coming up for Support KC.
Well, we did our launch on April 17th at the Kauffman Foundation Center, and that was great. And we've been working with and we're partnering with different community organizations to go to different parts of the community and, you know, again, just spread the word of like, what is BDI and how do you get involved? And so there'll be more coming out about that as we're shoring up some of those dates with the different organizations that we're working with. We have a lot of partners who are interested in hosting us, which is wonderful.
Oh, wow.
You know, if there's an organization that you work with that might be interested in hosting an event where we're just talking about BDI and how to get involved, please reach out. And we have Support Kansas City is the one who, you know, really kind of created the initiative. But as far as the board diversity initiative goes, BDI has its own website as well, which is bdiverse.org. And on that website, it gives all the background of what is BDI. It'll have our events once they launch, and as well as how to get involved. There's a whole page on how to get involved if you want to be an organization who goes through the training. Our goal this year is to train 10 organizations and 120 candidates.
Oh, okay.
This year. So that's what we're working towards. And so there's a place to get involved if you're a board. There's a place to get involved if you're a candidate. We're also looking for facilitators always. So there's a place to get involved if you're interested in facilitating. And all of that's on the website, which is bdiverse.org.
Thank you again, Ms. Cleaver. I'm going to end this off with prayer. This has been immaculate.
Wow, that's great.
Lord, thank you for another day. This has been fun. And the best is yet to come. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Thank you again, Ms. Cleaver.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Collins, for showing up.
Thank you.
My neighbor. We're going to keep this going, and we're going to connect, and we're going to come out to these events. And